Hi, my name is Brandon, and I'm an alcoholic and addict in recovery. This weekend, I'm going to the beach for a few days, going with my family, and going to the beach is what I would consider, for most alcoholics especially, a high-risk situation. And it's high risk not because you're necessarily more likely to drink there, but because you are in the presence of people drinking alcohol, potentially doing drugs, in a way that you aren't on a daily basis. So, on my daily basis, I might see my wife drink, but I'm not surrounded by other people drinking and partying and having an awesome time while doing it. At the beach, that's constant. I'm constantly bombarded with those images, and that just creates a situation that deserves a little bit of extra thought about how am I going to approach this situation? What am I going to do if I get a craving? That kind of thing. So I thought I'd go over some tips for dealing with high-risk situations and how I approach them. The first thing that I do is I remember the bad times that I've had in similar situations in the past when I was drinking or using. The beach in particular for me, I had some really awful times at the beach when I was drinking an enormous amount, and two of the absolute worst hangovers that I ever had came from times that I was at the beach and just had no control over my drinking. And so I have to remember those times. I remember one time where I lost a credit card, left it at a bar and was too drunk the next day to even go back and get it. Couldn't eat properly. These are the kind of things that, and those were not fun times. Those were not good times. Like, I remember this brings up feelings of shame. This brings up feelings of regret and just kind of disgust that I could be that way. And so remembering that gives me some good motivation to go to the beach and stay sober. And it helps to tamp down any cravings that I might have when I see other people drinking there. The other thing I have to do is put the good times in context. So were there ever times I went to the beach where I was able to control my drinking and still have a good time? And yeah, there were. In fact, I can think back to a time when, I was in my early 20s and my wife and I took a trip down to the beach in Mexico, and I didn't get too drunk the entire time. We just had kind of a steady buzz going on. But if I put that in context, that was before I really, really entered into the serious addictive type of drinking that I was doing during my bad beach days. That was when I was really just starting to dip my toes into alcoholism, get my feet a little bit into the shallow end there. So, I have to put that into context and realize that's not where I'm at now. I haven't been there for almost 20 years. My drinking has far transformed past that. And that's just not where I'm at. So, and that's not where I would be if I ever picked up again. The other thing, and this is my favorite tool to use in any situation where a temptation, where a craving might come up, is to follow the drink. What does it look like if I take a drink? And here's what it looks like for me. Superficially, I take a drink, I can't stop. Period, end of story. That's the way it's always been for me. I take a drink, I can't stop, and a lot of times that extends even to the next day. Like, I'll wake up feeling like shit. I have this overwhelming urge to stop the hangover by drinking more, and it's this never-ending cycle, and it takes I never really figured out how to break it. So that's the superficial side of it. The other side of it is that as soon as I take one drink, I can't enjoy whatever I'm doing wherever I'm doing it, because there's constantly something in the back of my head saying you should be drinking now. That's just the way it always was for me. There were very few times where I could just sit and be in the moment when I was drinking, because there was always a part of my brain trying to work out, okay, how am I going to keep this drinking going? How am I going to keep getting the alcohol into my stomach? It was just, my brain never rested once I got that introduced into me. So these days, when I'm sober and not doing that kind of stuff, I can relax and be in the moment, I can just be, and it's so peaceful. It's so nice. It's so relaxing. And that's what I go to places like the beach to do, is relax. So if I just focus on following the drink and taking it down to its logical conclusion, it's easy for me to look at 1,000 other people drinking and having a good time and saying, good for them. They enjoy that. I enjoy just being here right now way more than I could ever enjoy alcohol again. And that's really goes to the fourth point I wanted to make, which is asking myself the question, can I live in the moment while drinking? The answer for me is no, definitely not. Like I said, my brain constantly obsessed about how am I going to keep the supply of alcohol running through my body, and it never let me just relax into the moment once I got that introduced. And the last thing that I do, is just, and this is kind of a constant mantra for me these days, but I ask myself, what do I want out of life? What do I want? Do I want drinking and drugs in my life, or do I want what I found in recovery? And the answer for me is crystal clear. I want what I found in recovery, for all of the reasons that I've talked about this morning and more. I want what I found in recovery. What I had in drinking and drugs was horrid. And if I think back to some of my worst moments in trips that I went to the beach before, I would never want to go back there. I wouldn't wish those moments on my worst enemy. And so the thought of engaging in that again, it just doesn't even cross my mind. Instead, when I'm at the beach, what I get is this just overwhelming sense of gratitude that I don't have to do that anymore. I can go and be with my family and play in the sand with my son without worrying about whether or not my beer is getting too warm, or without thinking about whether or not I need to go get another one or have enough in the cooler, or all the different things that I used to obsess about in terms of alcohol, its availability to me, and how I would get as much of it as I felt like I needed. I don't have to do that anymore. I can just be in the moment with my son, my wife, with the beach, with the waves, all of that, and it's so peaceful. It's such a relaxing thing. And it reminds me of people who say, I need a vacation from my vacation. I used to say that too, because I would get home so exhausted because I had been drinking so much on vacation, because that's what vacation meant to me, was get as drunk as possible, as much as you can. Doesn't mean that anymore. Now I come home refreshed because I've been able to take time to relax and enjoy the moment. That is the biggest gift that I could ever hope for. And that's definitely what I want out of life. not drinking or drugs, but the recovery, the peace I've found there. That's what I want. If I keep all of this stuff in mind, which I do, and it's become such a habit for me that I really don't have to sit down and think about it. It's just kind of there in my head. The idea of cravings coming up, I'm very fortunate that cravings have not been a big part of my experience. And going and seeing people drink at the beach, I don't have cravings. I don't see somebody drinking a beer at the beach and think, oh, that looks good. Because it doesn't. It looks like disaster waiting to happen. It may not be for them, but it would be for me. And that's so embedded in my mind now that I can get down there and just not even think about this kind of stuff. But I felt like it was a good opportunity to go over some of this stuff, because these are the kinds of things that the little tricks and tips that I used as I was starting out in recovery to help me remember why I was doing what I was doing in situations where that became a little difficult sometimes. Hope y'all have a good day. I'll be back here tomorrow with more. Well, not here. I'll be at the beach, but I'll be back with more tomorrow. Let you know how it's going.